Good evening, and thank you everyone so much for joining tonight's general body meeting for the Howard United Alumni United organization. We realize your time is precious and we appreciate you deciding to spend the night with us for this important meeting that we're hosting. My name is Cheryl Green. I'm a 1979 graduate of the School of Communications at Howard, and I will be your host for the evening. This evening, we have, again, a very exciting agenda, very informative agenda, and we're going to kick it off with some observations from an HAU perspective on President Frederick's Alumni Insights call that he held on the 13th. After that, we will hear from some of the plaintiffs for the lawsuit that was filed against the Board of Trustees regarding shared governance. So you'll hear from them, and then we will watch a couple of videos from some of the other plaintiffs. After that, it will be followed by an Alumni Independence Committee update from April Silver and some of the members of her committee. And then we have a special announcement from Maria Jones from the Capstone group, who will be inviting all of us to an event that they're hosting later this month. Followed by that, we'll have some closing remarks from Donald Temple, and time permitting, we will answer some questions. I would ask you, just from a logistics perspective, if you could put your questions in the Q&A box as opposed to the chat. That would make it easier for us to find them and try to answer them real time as opposed to the end of the session. So again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Freddie Archer.
Thank you, Cheryl. Good evening, everyone. I'm Freddie Lewis Archer. I'm a 1971 graduate of Howard University and a member of the Howard Alumni United Steering Committee. And this evening, I'm tasked with giving some reflections on President Frederick's insight remarks last month. There are 4 things that jumped out at me in his comments. First, President Frederick talked about Howard University as being a business. What many of us are now referring to as the corporatization of Howard University. Second, he talked about 47% of the undergraduates are Pell Grant eligible. The third thing he talked about that was of interest to me was that the university has approximately 5,200 beds in its population. And the fourth thing that I'm going to address, he said that only 42 rooms, his words, not mine, only 42 rooms were contaminated with mold. Now I'm going to start with the first one about Howard being a business because from my perspective, that is pretty significant. Before I jump into more detail on that particular issue, I first would like to quickly tell you a little bit about myself and my background. I've been a licensed commercial real estate broker for 35 years, the last 25 here in the DMV, and 20 of those 25, I've owned my own firm. I was a member of the numerous development teams providing retail brokerage services on major projects such as City Center, which is a project that's on the old convention center site in downtown, City Vista, and also the Wharf, which is probably the latest and largest major development in the District of Columbia. That last project provides hotel, residential, office, retail, and entertainment. So I'm coming to this topic with some experience and some firsthand knowledge about how development projects, real estate development projects work in the district. And I'm sure that most of you are probably aware many years ago, Howard was in some very serious financial trouble and started selling off various assets. I guess that wasn't too surprising, but if you think about it and look at where we are today, it has somewhat slowed its role in that the university is taking a more measured approach in how it's handling its assets. 7 years ago, it hired a gentleman by the name of Anthony Freeman to handle the university's real estate portfolio. I will say with a degree of certainty that Anthony Freeman is probably responsible for the changes in how our assets are being handled, managed, and instead of just being sold outright. A couple of years ago, a couple of the dormitories, Carver Hall, Slow Hall, were on the market. It was felt that they were underutilized, underserved properties. Well, one might say, well, if we have a need for residential housing for students, which in all indications we do, why would we be selling off dormitories? And that puzzled me when I first learned of that. They created, the developer, I'll back up and say this, the developer is an African-American who's done a number of great projects in the District of Columbia. And I was at least pleased to see that. What the developer offered, in addition to paying for this long-term ground lease, he offered scholarships and internships to students. Well, my question is, why did we not ask for rooms, dormitory space within his project? To me, that would have made substantially more sense than just taking on scholarships and internships. I mean, of course, we will always welcome that, but this kind of gets to the root of a lot of questions that many people have been asking, and that is, why do we have the problems that we're experiencing with students and living conditions and living units on the campus of Howard University? Well, when you are taking dormitory buildings that either were online or not online and allowing developers to utilize those buildings for either market rate or luxury housing, that's a problem. And that's something that we all should be concerned about. The same developer, Jair Lynch, and as I said, he's a good developer, African-American, was then granted a 99-year ground lease to redevelop Meridian Hill. Meridian Hill, back when I was at Howard, back in the 60s and early 70s, was a substantial residential building for students. And now it has been converted to 200 luxury apartments for the District of Columbia. So the question, of course, jumps out at you is why? Why is the university doing this? Well, it became very clear based on some statements that I read either from business publications in the district or even from Howard's own website, that it was necessary in order to develop more income streams to further other projects that the university wanted to undertake. Well, now at first glance, that does make a lot of sense. However, if you stop and think about it for a moment, you really have to contemplate, how are we doing this? What measures are we putting in place to make sure that we're maximizing and getting the best results from these decisions that are taking place? More recently, Howard awarded the Bond Bread building, which is across from Howard Hospital, to a development team comprised of a company called Foursquare, another company called Minkiti Group, which is an African-American company, and another company called Edens. Now, they will be developing approximately 600,000 square feet of mixed real estate. There will be a hotel, there will be residential, and there will be retail. Now, as I looked at all of this, I still kept wondering, why are we, even though these are long-term ground leases, meaning we maintain the ownership of the land, but we give these developers the opportunity to tie up this property for a number of years and make incredible income off of these properties. And so I look at that and I say, are there not other ways to do this? Can we not consider asking developers to do more, to provide maybe 20% or even 10% of the residential units that they're constructing, provide housing for students? You know, there's a scripture that says you get not because you ask not. I truly believe that if we approach these developers in the right manner, I think that they would do this. I just don't think we've made that effort to find out if that's a possibility. And as long as we have students who are in need of housing, we should always think about ways that we can encourage and to enrich that experience sorry, that was my 10 minutes, Cheryl. I'm going to go a little bit over. We should always be taking that opportunity to try and maximize the assets that we own. And it doesn't appear as if that is happening. So many of you might say, well, what does that have to do with me? What can I do? I think, first of all of us as concerned alums, we must educate ourselves and become aware of what is happening. There are sites that you can go to. Howard's own site is one where you can go and learn about what is happening. I would encourage all of you to go to the site, learn about what's being planned, the master plan that is underway. There are so many things that are happening at Howard University that many of us don't know anything about, but it's accessible. We just have to take the initiative to go and to look for it and to read about it. Because if we don't start doing something to stem the tide, we won't recognize our university 5-10 years from now. You know, it has been said that, and if you look at some of the comments made by President Frederick, when he talks about the university, and especially with some of these development RFPs that have gone out, there's a statement that's made afterwards where he talks about what Howard University is. Howard University is everything to him except an HBCU. I have not seen him mention not one time in any of these statements. And that's why I'm encouraging to go and to look at, just Google Carver Hall, Slow Hall, Meridian Hill, Bond Bread. And if you read the statement afterward, he talks about all of the, you know, the wonderful scholars that we have, the Rhodes Scholars, Truman Scholars. I mean, that's all great and that's wonderful. But not once does he mention that Howard University is an HBCU. My question is, what are we afraid of? Are we denying who we are, what we are? Because if we deny it today, what does that mean for the future? Will our grandchildren be able to have space in this university? He talked about 47% of the undergraduates are eligible for Pell Grants. Well, if that's the case, those students can't afford the luxury apartments that are being built. There are a lot of instructors and faculty members who can't afford the luxury apartments that are being built. He said that there were 5,200 beds. Well, 5,200 beds. And if you go and you check the number of students that are at Howard University, I think there are over 6,000 undergraduates. And with that being the case, sounds like a shortage to me. So if there is a shortage, why aren't we doing more to ensure that we have enough and we have adequate housing for our students on campus? So, and the final comment, I'll go back to the 42, only 42 rooms with mold. Well, I'm sorry, Mr. President, one room is one too many with mold. Because one thing I know about mold being in this business is that if it's in one room, there's a high probability that it's in multiple rooms. So that's something for you all to think about. I hope and I pray that you all will do some homework, do some reading, find out more about what is happening at alma mater, all of the plans that are on the drawing board. I mean, there is a huge master plan underway. We need to know, we need to be engaged so that we can respond and do what is necessary if we truly love alma mater. Thank you.
Got to give you an applause for that, Freddie. You were spot on. You were spot on. And I think one thing that you said that really resonates with me is that we really need to educate ourselves. I know I need to educate myself better. And, you know, because what's at stake here to me and what causes me concern is the very soul of Howard. Howard, if it keeps going down this path of, you know, Howard as a business, it will not look like it does today. And we should all be concerned about that. We should all be educating ourselves about that. So thank you so much, Freddie. Really appreciate it. It was great information that you shared. I do want to mention a couple of things, housekeeping, top things before we move on. Again, if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A box as opposed to the chat. It's easier for us to monitor those. This session will be recorded and uploaded to our YouTube page. And also, I just learned that we created, or Angela created, I should say, an on-demand feature. So if you registered for this session, you will be able to watch it anytime prior. If you want to watch it again, which I hope you do, and share it, you will be able to do so before it is actually uploaded to our YouTube page. So again, thank you, Freddie. Very, very good presentation. Much appreciated. At this time, we're going to move along. I think everyone on the call probably knows that a group of Howard alumni recently filed a lawsuit against the Howard Board of Trustees regarding the shared governance concern. We are fortunate tonight to have a couple of the plaintiffs live to talk about why they decided to participate in this lawsuit. And then immediately following that, we will show a video, perhaps two, of other plaintiffs who decided to file. We're going to do them in this particular order, so I don't have to introduce every single one. We're going to have Angela Trapp up first. She will be followed by Dr. Stephen Jackson, and then Dr. Timothy Jenkins will close out the live comments. And then that will be followed by videos from some other plaintiffs. So Angela.
Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Angela Trapp, and I am one of the plaintiffs represented in the lawsuit against our Board of Trustees. So I just want to briefly talk about why I chose to be a plaintiff and just some brief points on the lawsuit as far as, what you guys should really be thinking about when you hear about this lawsuit in the coming days and weeks. So first of all, our team has been labeled as disconnected, and obviously that could be further from the truth. We think we are quite connected, as you heard Ms. Freddie Archer give off a lot of points that alumni have brought to light regarding the university. We don't take these things lightly, and that is because we are connected to the university. What we hope that the university carries forward is transparency, and transparency can only be carried forward through shared governance. The only way that we can be connected is through transparency. So I would challenge the university by saying if they would like us to be more connected, then they have to be transparent. We, alumni, faculty, and students, we represent the university. Therefore, our affiliates on the board should retain their position if it is to operate under shared governance. On page 100 of a recent study done in March 2020 regarding Howard's accreditation, Howard University was stated to embrace the concept of shared governance. Its leadership has been deliberate about including all stakeholders in major decision-making. That was noted on page 100 of that study. That was in March 2020. And then in April 2020, there comes a freeze of the affiliate trustee nominations. So we go from celebrating shared governance to putting a freeze on the nomination of the affiliate trustees 1 month later. Must we believe that nominations were to resume at some point once the university managed to organize itself to operate under pandemic conditions? Because that was the reason, supposedly, that the nominations were frozen was due to COVID. Well, we've only heard from one affiliate trustee that voted to exclude themselves in the quote unquote unanimous vote that was in June of 2021. Was it unanimous if only one affiliate trustee voted? Have we collectively heard from our affiliate trustees on why they would exclude themselves from almost 100 years of the model of shared governance at Howard University? And then in November of 2021, the board modified its bylaws to exclude its affiliate trustees. Okay, so they voted in April and then they changed the bylaws in November. How do the players get voted out of the game before the rules get changed to exclude the players? Doesn't make sense. Remember that it was a student trustee that came up with the idea of adding $30 to every student's tuition bill to boost Howard's endowment fund by over $2 million by 1995. I was at Howard when that was voted on. That was a great idea. We have student trustees, alumni trustees, faculty trustees with great ideas, and we should continue to embrace shared governance by allowing our representation on the board. There are a lot of shiny objects being thrown at us in the media and social media. And I think a lot of it's great. You know, as Freddie said, it's great that Howard is doing some great things. We have now at Howard University Arts and Humanities, Toni Morrison, Endowed Chair. Kudos. Our fine arts students recently got to announce the Oscar nominations. That was great. Alumnus Pep Hamilton was appointed as offensive coordinator for the Houston Texans. That was great. The Howard University Office of Corporate Relations had their first time home buying seminar. The Howard University School of Business Dean recently spoke on CNBC about diversity in business. We got a lot of great things going on at Howard, and we are so proud of our university. However, let's ensure that Howard is operating on a firm foundation of integrity. So I would charge you all with a few things. Read and become familiar with Howard's strategic plan, Howard Forward. That document, that strategic plan speaks volumes to where Howard is going, to where our board wants to see this university headed. And as Freddie noted, see how many times you see HBCU in that strategic plan. It's very important for you to read between the lines and figure out what's being said and what's not being said. Give to the university. Definitely important to always give to the university. Put your dollars where your voice is so that the university knows what's important to you. Let the university know where you want your dollars to be spent. While we no longer have a vote on who is on our board of trustees, when you vote for your Howard University Alumni Association officers, vote for those who can make a difference and those who truly represent Howard and its legacy. Or else 30 years from now, we won't recognize our alma mater. Thank you.
Evening. My name is Dr. Stephen Jackson, and I'm going to talk about why I'm a plaintiff, but maybe you need just to know a little background about me. I'm a lifelong educator, over 30 years. I've been a principal for the last over 22, 23 years. Actually, I was the principal of Dunbar High School for many years, which is the first African-American high school in the country. And I've been serving on as the chair of the principals panel for NAEP, and I was appointed to that position for the U.S. Department of Education by President Obama over 7 years ago, and I'm still serving in that capacity. But one of the reasons why I became a plaintiff is real simple. In November, end of October, November, I was asked to go to Howard to work with the students who were protesting. There were a lot of things that were happening on the campus. So a good friend of mine, Jam, myself, April Silva, asked us to go down there and work with the students. I originally came to spend the weekend, right? Because I do a lot of consultant work. I mentor principals because I'm actually a retired principal. So I was asked to stay for 2 or 3 days. And we wind up staying on Howard's campus for 15 days. From the time that we went until the end of the protests, while the students were protesting, we stayed for 15 days. Well, what did that look like? Well, we were on the campus where we actually set up tents outside with the students. And some of those nights were really cold in those tents. So I'm letting y'all know right now, it was really cold for me in those tents. And sometimes I had to run to my car just to get a little warm, then go back out to those cold tents. But the reality of the situation is that we were able to bond with the students. We spoke to the students. We got to talk to hundreds of students that were involved in the protest. And out of speaking to these students, we learned that the university, meaning the president, board members, and others, did not have a relationship with these students. And as a principal, I know one of the first things that you do as a principal is build relationships with your stakeholders. Students are your stakeholders. Parents are your stakeholders. Alumni are your stakeholders. Community members are your stakeholders. And in order to build an effective university or school, you must include the stakeholders in your decision-making, efforts. You have to include your stakeholders. So by me talking to the students, I literally got pissed off, excuse my expression. I got pissed off because the students were saying that the president didn't want to meet with them. I'm like, how can you be a president of a university and you don't want to sit down with students? Even if you disagree with the students, you still should meet with your students because they are your constituents. I've met with all of my students. I had student meetings, I had teacher meetings, I had parent meetings, I had community meetings. Why? Because those were my important stakeholders. In fact, being a principal at Dunbar, I had all types of visitors coming in. I had Michelle Obama coming in, I had Al Sharpton coming in. I had so many different people coming in and out of the school. As you can see, just the other day, you had Kamala Harris' husband come to the school, and then unfortunately there was a bomb threat and he had to leave. So you have a lot of important people coming in and out of the building. So the reality is that as a principal and administrator, it is important for you to develop relationships with your stakeholders. When those students told me that when they requested a meeting with him, he refused to meet with them, that really hit me right here in the heart. And this is a person who visited my school. Frederick came to Dunbar when I was a principal there. I mean, it's the first African-American high school in the country. So he came to visit. And I had a brief conversation and let him know how many high-powered people graduated from Dunbar. Because if it weren't for Dunbar, to be quite honest with you, Howard University would not have exponentially moved as quick as it did, because people who graduated from Dunbar actually went to teach at Howard University. That's where they got many of their students. People don't know the relationship between Howard and Dunbar, very important. But more importantly, I have joined as a plaintiff simply because I understand the importance of transparency. I understand the importance of the alumni being involved in the decision-making, the students, the faculty. I understand how important it is for all of these stakeholders to be involved in the decision-making process. Now, we don't have transparency because we've been taken off of the board of trustees. So we don't even know what's going on. And so I'm very concerned about where Howard is going. So with that said, you know, we've assured many of the students that we're going to fight so that we can, you know, preserve our university. More importantly, make sure that our university is around 5 or 10 years from now. You've heard Freddie talk about earlier that 5 years, it may look totally different. I saw a lot of changes in DC over the years, including in Dunbar and that particular area, and how it went from being all Black to now it's predominantly white. So the question then becomes is, where do we go from here? Well, a couple of things that I want to point out to you. I want you to stay tuned because as the alumni who are involved in the lawsuit, we want to make sure that we begin to establish a plaintiff legal defense fund. All right, now keep in mind, this is not a Capstone or HAU initiative. This is alumni who are plaintiffs. I want y'all to be clear that HAU is not the one who is initiating the lawsuit, and neither is Capstone. These are Howard alumni. We're Howard alumni. We're plaintiffs because we disagree with what these folks are doing. But we also know that we need to support the legal defense fund. We have attorneys that are working on this, and when they have to put in briefs and other things, it costs money. So I want you to stay tuned because we'll let you know that information and how you can contribute to ensure that we're able to see this particular thing through, especially as this work is drawn out. Last but not least, I want to say this, all right? It is important for you to become aware of, you know, why we are actually suing. Not just hearing from us, but it's important for you to read, you know, the lawsuit. And you can actually go, and hopefully somebody will put it out there, but on April's site, on the killerworksongs.com, the lawsuit is actually housed there where you actually can go on there and actually read through it. So please go and read through it, look at it, and you can get an idea of why you should actually support us. More importantly, we love Howard University. And because we love Howard, we have to challenge Howard. Because we love Howard, we want to make sure that those who have the are in the position of administrators is steering Howard in the right direction. So we have to challenge these folks. We have to ask these folks questions. But every time that they come and, you know, give a presentation, many of the questions that we may want to ask, they may not bring forth. Or even in the case of the students, they don't even allow them to come and have a conversation with the administration. So it is important for us to save our university, to be involved, to be engaged, and we have to fight like hell in order to preserve our university. Thank you.
It's important for us to make sure that we don't confuse form with substance. This business is presented as though it's a matter of a legal contest. It's really not a matter of legal contest. It's a matter of ideology and purpose. Remember, as the history of Howard in the first 100 years spells out, that Ray Logan wrote, Howard was physically built by the hands of students and faculty, mixing mortar and putting bricks together to create a university campus. Let's not forget that when we go into this new mode of contest. This is not about making an argument about the structure of a way in which you create an institution. It's the lifeblood of what the purpose of the institution is. It's fundamental that we make sure that what was originally conceived of as a university that was of the people and for the people does not disappear. When they created the Board of Trustees, it originally was made up of philanthropists and external people. Only over time did it become structured so that it included people who were students and who were faculty. I was a member of the Board of Trustees who made the motion to include faculty and students in the composition of the Board of Trustees. And it is important for us to remember that that is fundamental to the balancing of the university and its purposes. It is not an accident that we have students and faculty and alumni on the board. It's because they are part of the purpose for having the university in the first instance. And we must make sure that the board doesn't become alien to the purpose of the university in the first instance. We must make sure that the programs, the use of the resources, the use of the physical plant is integrally related to the reason for having a university in the first place. It is not to compete with an Ivy League. It's to compete with the interest of solving the problems that Black people face in America. And if the board doesn't recognize that and isn't composed of people who believe in that, then the board needs to be changed. I tell you, as a person who comes from a militant orientation as a co-founder of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, I know that change doesn't come by whisper. It comes by threat, and it comes by bombast, and it comes by confrontation. It is important for you to understand that your role is not to sit back and see what is decided by even the court. It is for you to take an active part in making sure that what is decided is reflective of your views of what the university ought to be. And what we're engaged in now in a legal issue is broader than that. It's really the soul and purpose of Howard. And I think that one of the things we have to make sure is that we don't let the form of this being a legal proceeding overcome the purpose for its really saving the soul of Howard and its original foundations and purposes. We are Howard University. Howard University is not a corporation that's created by people and stockholders. It's created by people who have given their lives to a purpose for which Howard exists. And it's fundamental that we make sure that the university never separates itself from its purposes. And that's what I think this whole business of a suit is all about. I'm a plaintiff because I believe that the law should be an instrument for the creation and the solution of social purposes. And I think that what we have here is a social purpose that's being threatened. I think one of the things that is most disparaging and discouraging about the way in which the current Board of Trustees views itself, not just because they call themselves a corporation, but because they've lost their soul. And they lost the soul of its commitment to the needs of the Black community in the fundamental way. And this is what we've got to challenge. And we've got to challenge it in court, we've got to challenge it in the street, and we got to challenge it in our own pocketbooks. So where we create the priorities of where we want to put our emphasis. We are Howard University. We're not some aliens who have come in and tried to take a seat at the table. We created the table that we're sitting at, and that's what we've got to make sure we fight for.
Woo, I need an offering plate to pass around after that. I tell you, all three of you were on fire. That was, I mean, seriously, I'm sitting here like I'm halfway between tears and halfway between like shouting and crying in my house. So I can't thank you enough. If people aren't fired up after all of those, I'm going to call them testimonies. I don't know what it will take to get you fired up. Thank you, Angela. Thank you, Dr. Jackson. Thank you, Dr. Jenkins, for those powerful statements. We all needed to hear it. It was just awesome. We are now going to turn, we've got, I think, 2 videos we're going to show. You've heard from the couple of plaintiffs live, and now you're going to see 2 videos from a few of the other plaintiffs that are part of the lawsuit.
A group of Howard University alumni has filed a lawsuit against the Howard Board of Trustees for violating its bylaws when it abolished the board's student, alumni, and faculty seats. 2 of the plaintiffs share their thoughts on the legal complaint filed in D.C. Superior Court.
You know, after graduating from Howard, working at Howard for 32 years, serving on the board 2014 to 2017, the last thing I ever thought I would do and wanted to do is to sue the Board of Trustees. I love Howard University, but when a board ignores its own bylaws and is only accountable to themselves and then moves to abolish the only independent voices and votes on the board, then somebody has to step into the breach. And I'm really sad that this legal action has had to be taken.
I decided to become a plaintiff because I believe in Howard University. Howard University is a great university and the foundation is democracy. If you look at some of our iconic alumni like Toni Morrison, Kwame Ture, and Thurgood Marshall, and even Chadwick Boseman, their whole fight in Ford was about democracy and the cause of justice for Black people. So we absolutely must have democracy. We must have the votes and voices of all of the stakeholders. That's faculty, students, and alumni. It is a moral imperative.
I understand why people might say there should be no public criticism and certainly no lawsuit against the Board of Trustees. I've felt that way a long time myself as a career employee and being on the board. We find ourselves in a situation in which the board is not obeying its own bylaws. I pleaded with members of the board off the record to reconsider this action because the way that it was done and the actual action itself of abolishing student, faculty, and alumni representation on the Board of Trustees is unwise. It's inimical to the mission of Howard University. I don't understand why people would, have a serious concern or issue with people suing the board. But I asked them to ask themselves one question. If the board is going to ignore its own bylaws in doing this, what will they ignore next time? Where's the accountability going to come from if the board itself that we trust is not being trustworthy?
For alumni who may be questioning why we're filing this lawsuit, we have tried in earnest to reach out to the Board of Trustees with no avail. After submitting a petition with thousands of names on it, emailing, writing letters, they have not responded. So we must talk about this. We must deal with restoring the voices of the key stakeholders back onto the Board of Trustees.
It's a fact that Howard University alumni care deeply about their alma mater. Ask any proud alum what follows HU. Well, you know. Nonetheless, there are times when decisions made by Howard's leadership don't necessarily align with its founding principles. In this video, 2 alums share their reasons for supporting the lawsuit that was recently filed against Howard's Board of Trustees.
As Howard University alumna, I support the lawsuit filed against the Board of Trustees because of the very thing that I learned to stand for as a young Howard student. And that is that transparency and accountability, which leads to trust, is important in all relationships. And as the parent of a young Howard Bison, I believe an example must be set for him and other Howard students that we are a principled people. So it is with love of our esteemed Howard University and all of its community that I support transparency and accountability of the Board of Trustees through this lawsuit.
I support the
Tracy, we
lawsuit
can't see the
because the
screen,
important
Tracy.
stakeholders for the union. As a
Oh, you can
former
hear it, but you can't
employee
see it,
and
okay.
alumnus, I
That's correct.
Okay, 1 second. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yep.
It's a fact that Howard University alumni care deeply about their alma mater. Ask any proud alum what follows HU. Well, you know. Nonetheless, there are times when decisions made by Howard's leadership don't necessarily align with its founding principles. In this video, 2 alums share their reasons for supporting the lawsuit that was recently filed against Howard's Board of Trustees.
As Howard University alumna, I support the lawsuit filed against the Board of Trustees because of the very thing that I learned to stand for as a young Howard student. And that is that transparency and accountability, which leads to trust, is important in all relationships. And as the parent of a young Howard Bison, I believe an example must be set for him and other Howard students that we are a principled people. So it is with love of our esteemed Howard University and all of its community that I support transparency and accountability of the Board of Trustees through this lawsuit.
I support the lawsuit because the important stakeholders for the universities cannot be heard. As a former employee and alumnus, I understand that the affiliate trustees, including students, alumni, and faculty, have been muffled due to the board's failure to adhere to its own bylaws. So for that reason, I believe that they have violated the trust of the Howard University family and the shared governance model for the Middle States accreditation.
Thank you again to the plaintiffs who talked to us live. Would also like to thank those who participated in the video. I think a lot of you are on the call today, Maria, Damani, Sonia. So again, thank you for those powerful testimonies. And now I'm going to turn it over to April Silver, who will give you an update on the progress of the Alumni Independence Committee. April?
Yes, if you all can hear me, let me know. Hopefully you can. Yes, okay. Good evening, family. I'm on cloud 9. Again, anytime I come amongst you all as family, I'm just sometimes at a loss for words. So I'm going to jump right in because we have been given the assignment over and over again. Dr. Jenkins, again, we thank you for your wisdom. We bow at your feet humbly, and we thank you for your guidance and invoking the spirit of military activism, a militant mindset that is confrontational but righteous. We thank you so much. And everyone who spoke before. I'm going to jump right in by invoking the spirit of our ancestors, the righteous ones, but one in particular, James Baldwin. I would like to read a quote that I have on my wall. And he says, "The price that one pays for pursuing any profession or calling is an intimate knowledge of its ugly side." So I'll say that again for those who might not be familiar with the quote from James Baldwin. The price that one pays for pursuing any profession or calling is an intimate knowledge of its ugly side. And that's why we're here today as Howard Bison, as people of good character and conscience, and people who have an infinite love for people of African ancestry in particular. So I just want to bring greetings with that spirit and principled mindset and mind, so you can understand what guides Howard Alumni United and the principles and the overarching energy that drives us within the Alumni Independence Committee. I want to bring greetings from Brooklyn, and on behalf of everybody in the committee, we meet every other Tuesday. There's a dedicated bunch. I'm not going to go through all of the names, but there's a dedicated bunch that gives me inspiration because there is intelligence and dedication and devotion that comes from this group. And alumni independence is one of the core pillars upon which this organization was founded. And it's important for people to never lose sight of that. So let me, if I don't mess this up, share my screen and share with you just a couple of things that I would like to go over today. Let me get an audible cue if my screen is visible from someone.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, it's the right graphic.
Yes.
So, see, the ancestors got me on track now. I'm not having any tech issues now. The imperative, the Alumni Independence Imperative. It was Dr. Ewart Brown that said it best a number of months ago when he reminded us of what happens when you bring people of African ancestry into a particular space, such as a Howard University. But these people come to this space with traditions, different cultures, different ambitions as human beings. And all of us come together from different lineages, and we come for 4 or 5 or more years to try to improve our personal lot and that of our community. What do you think would happen? And I'm paraphrasing Dr. Brown, but what do you think would happen when you get Black people under the, connected to a legacy of enslavement and oppression and dehumanization and police brutality and all of the things that come, coupled with a resilience unlike any other group on the planet. But when you bring people together in that way to try to move forward individually and collectively, there's going to be friction. There are going to be ugly sides. There are going to be confrontation. So we have to remind ourselves that this is what we have at Howard University: different agendas, different perspectives, different ways of relating individually and collectively. But the imperative that we have here, and Dr. Jenkins spoke on it so eloquently and powerfully, is that the soul of Howard, as has been said by him and others this evening, is what is at stake. And it is students who become alum, right? It is students who we hope to guide and counsel that become alumni of the university. And it is the very fiber of the university that which needs to be maintained, so that 100+ years from now, we can look back and remember who we are, where we've come from, and what is the greatest good for our community, not just a person or a certain class of people or a certain group, but what is the greatest good for the collective? And that's what we're being reminded. So we as alum, many of us, all of us in this particular organization, come with that charge of maintenance. And the imperative is that as alum, if we want to see Howard be its purest, most righteous, integrity, principle-based institution that cares more about human beings more than it does about dollars and cents, and that's not to poo-poo dollars and cents, but that we care more about the evolution of human beings, then we as alum are charged with the responsibility to make that happen. That's why alumni independence is important. I'll get into what we are and what we are not, but we, at the beginning of this year, this is the first time that we've come together in 2022. So we welcome this year and encourage you to understand that we have been working diligently, whether you hear from us or not, whether you are on social media or not, whether you check your emails or not. This group of people and all of the different subcommittees have been working religiously to make sure that alumni independence is something that we leave for the Howard community for generations to come, as has been reminded by us. So that is the imperative that we want you to be refreshed with and let your work be long-term and not transactional. I want to go into a little bit of what alumni independence is and what it is not. We are the best of Howard University. There is no group of people more intelligent and devoted collectively than this body and what we represent as individuals and beyond. We meet on a regular weekly basis and in between because we are doing this work and we have long vision. Ultimately, we have long vision about what we want to build at Howard University. We are forward-thinking, innovative people. We are not competing with any other alumni infrastructure that exists at Howard University. We have no competition. We have no friction. We have nothing against any other entity. We are pro-Howard, 1,000,000%. We are pro-integrity, 1,000,000%. We have immeasurable bottomless pit to commitment to the university that we want. If you have that too, show up in whatever way that you can and be a part of what we are. Because we, as was reminded, we don't focus on what we don't have. We dream big, we are building infrastructure, and for however long it takes is what it takes to get it right so that it can be something that you can be proud of. So we want you to be clear on that. What we have accomplished, like I said, as the Alumni Independence Committee, this is one committee of 5 or 6, we are building infrastructure for the nonprofit that you will be able to call your own. We have set measurable goals with objectives, and it is a collective body that is ironing out all the wrinkles, because no matter how much we care about the university, we have different talents and skills and perspectives that we bring to the table, but the common thread is we want the best for Howard in a way that we don't see it right now. And so we've accomplished the building blocks. We have laid the foundation upon which we will be building and announcing over the next several months, so that this is the nonprofit that you will be proud to call your own. I want to defer to one of my fellow chairpersons to give a little bit of context about, as brilliant as we are as Howardites, all of us, Sharon Bryant, who's going to come to the screen, and I'll stop my share in just a moment. She's going to come to the screen and put alumni independence in a structural context and what that looks like at other universities, be they HBCUs, the best collective of higher learning, and some predominantly white institutions as well. So I'm going to bring Sharon on, and then she's going to turn it back over to me, and we'll close out the Alumni Independence Report. Sharon?
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to be really quick. I'm not nearly as eloquent as all of my fellow Bison were tonight, but I tend to be someone who focuses on knowing the lay of the land. I want my fellow Bison to know the lay of the land. And so what I was asked to do by the steering committee is to head up a research committee. So I, along with some of my fellow Bison, we meet every other Thursday and we get down to business. We're a working committee. I like to work, and so we're a working committee. And what we've done is our first project was to take a look across the landscape at other universities, other colleges, what their alumni associations look like, independent, dependent, HBCUs, some PWIs. What are some of the notable benefits that they offer? What does their due structure look like? And then what I really want to know is also what role do they play in the election of trustees? So we've done that work. Let's call it a market study, if you will, of 25 different universities, also looking at HUAA, just to keep it in context, whether or not they are, have a not-for-profit separate entities set up. We did that research as well. And so that's going into the formation of HAU. So we have a sense of what else is out there. That's all I'm going to say tonight. More research to come. Keep an eye out, but we're working. And if you have any interest in sort of doing research, please reach out and let me know. We'd love to have you on the committee. Like I said, we're busy. There's plenty of work to do, understanding Howard and what's going on, and there'll be more to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon, very much. I would agree that committee is on point. It is illuminating. It is one of the Alumni Independence Committee is a working committee as well. You will soon get a link that will allow you, let me share my screen again. All right, y'all cross your fingers now. Let's see if yeah, there we go. You will soon get a link. Before I turn this over to one of the committees, this is my cue for Thina Johnson, who's going to come on after me. You will soon get an email, rather, that will remind you to join one of the committees of this organization. And in particular, Alumni Independence, we have 8 open committees where we encourage people to join. So one of those, in that email, one of the links will be listing and a collection of information from you, which one of these 8 committees that you would like to be a part of. I especially have to shout out everybody who shows up without prompt, without reminders, every other Tuesday for the past several months so we can get this work done. I have anecdote for days about the phone calls, the emails that I get for people who are ready to get the work done. They might not be able to come to every meeting, but they have money burning a hole in their pockets because they want to see this nonprofit organization that we're building come to life. So for everyone in the chat, I saw someone was like, how do we, support and do things? I'm ready to give the money right now. The means for which you to donate are coming. Trust us. If you trust us a little bit, trust us a lot. And if you're going to think you're going to spend that money, put it off to the side, put it somewhere where you don't touch it, because we will need not just your moral support, but your financial support. So take a look at the screen before I close it out. You will see that there's a subcommittee around alumni ambassadors. You'll get the definitions forthcoming. Alumni faculty relations, alumni membership engagement, of which you'll get an overview tonight. There's an awareness and education and advocacy subcommittee as well, budget and finance, communications and marketing, fundraising and development, programs and partnerships. So this is just to whet your appetite and to show the serious work that's being done. Please don't come to Alumni Independence if you know you don't have time to be on at least one of these committees. You will get definitions and explanations for sure. You can trust us on that, but this is just to give you a taste. So I'm going to turn it over to Thina. So this is my last word, just to say thank you for everybody who has given us their positive vibes, and their energy and their trust, and all of the accolades. We are a working body overall, and we appreciate your support and your patience, but trust and believe that we are here to build the institution that our grandchildren will be able to be proud of, and something that is sustainable. So on that note, Thina, can you close us out with just a little bit of an overview of the vision that you and your subcommittee team has been building?
Okay, thank you, April. So we have a really dynamic, passionate team. I am the co-chair of the Alumni Membership and Engagement Committee, and our mission is to grow and maintain active alumni membership and associate membership for the organization, both nationally and globally. So we have kind of identified some of our immediate goals. And one is to create an interest video, a short video that we will be promoting once the organization officially goes live, so that alumni will know what HAU stands for and how you can join. We also are we're looking at several tracking tools like software so that we can have a very robust platform so that alum can come and collaborate, they can join and become a member, sign up for a committee, have a space to discuss different topics, maybe have sponsorship. So if you have a company, you can be a sponsor on our website. And then we're going to have alumni directory, business directory. So we're going to have one place for all of us to go to collaborate and communicate with each other. So right now we're interviewing different software companies to see which platform will work best for the organization. And one of our major goals is how do we build our alumni database? So we actually talked about that the other night. We have thousands of people that are on our email list, but we know that there are over 80,000 alum that's been reported. So we're working on how do we identify, engage, and track these alumni and have them be a part of HAU. And then finally, we're going to be working on a membership survey so that we can better understand what our potential members will want in this organization. So those are just a few of our goals, and we need all the help we can. So when you get that link, if you are interested, if you have a talent, a passion for how we can grow this organization and our membership, please join our committee. So we're going to be meeting on the opposite Tuesday that the AI committee meets. And I will, if you reach out to me, I will definitely keep you on our list and invite you. And we also, as April said, we need working members. So with that, I'll turn it back over.
Thank you so much, Dana. Thank you so much. Appreciate the report from the Alumni Independence. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to say one thing, Cheryl, don't fire me, don't fire me. When you come to Alumni Independence, just be clear, we are about transparency, so we model that. So you have to be able to come and have your face shown and your name, because we need to see who we're talking to and know who we're working with in the same way that you know who we are. We have to see who you are. So just know that we do have ground rules, but it's all centered around transparency and integrity and building this family structure, but it's based on principles. So I'm finished. Cheryl, don't fire me. I'm done.
We'll talk offline. Thank you. That was actually really good. I let you guys go over because I think what you guys are doing with the Alumni Independence Committee is just awesome, and that shows a lot of progress that you've made in the short time this group has been together. So thank you all for the presentation who represented the AI committee. Next up, we are fortunate to have a collaborative and supportive relationship with Mecca Minded, the Capstone group. We have Maria Jones here representing the Capstone group, who would like to invite all of us, or all of you, to an event that's coming up, I think later this month. So Maria, why don't I turn it over to you?
Okay, great. Should I share my screen, or do you all have that slide?
I don't know what was agreed upon. Angela, do you have it, or should Maria share it?
Maria, you tell me. I can share it if you need me to, but I don't have it queued up. Do you have it?
Let me see. I could try to. Let's see if it will work.
Sure it will.
Yeah, I think I can do it.
Okay.
Hopefully it won't show my other stuff on my desktop. Okay, so let's see.
We see it.
Okay, beautiful. So everyone, thank you for the time and the space and the energy. It's a beautiful evening, and we hope that everyone will come out to the 3rd annual Capstone Awards. We've been doing this for 3 years, and we've honored people in the past like Dr. Carl Anderson, Dr. Joshua Myers, Natalie Hopkinson. And, this whole thing is designed to recognize, honor, and celebrate ourselves, right? We can't wait to do that. Can't wait for other folks to do that. So we have to, it's imperative that we celebrate ourselves. We have to. And as you know, we're going to be honoring our very own Donald M. Temple for his awesome civil rights work, his awesome civil rights litigation. He will be receiving the Elijah Cummings Social Justice Award. So y'all come on out. We'll also be honoring my brother, Raz J. Baraka, Mayor of Newark, New Jersey, for his wonderful work in that city and just making the city more healthy and vibrant. Miss Carol Dudley, School of C, Dr. Carol Dudley, School of C, and for just working with those students and preparing them for careers in communications. Also, Dr. Clive Callender, he's a world-renowned transplant surgeon. We have Camilla Forbes. She is the executive producer of the Apollo Theater, and she's done just astounding work for that institution and just her directing and producing, and also her advocacy of the university. We also have the young student Blackburn Takeover leaders. We must recognize them. They've worked hard, not only for pushing the cause, the student cause, but for all of us. They kicked the door wide open, and now we're walking through it. So that's very beautiful. So come on out. We'll also recognize 7 Howard University students who have received Capstone scholarships. So you will not want to miss it. We've got some organic entertainment. It's Monday, February 21st at 6:30. I'm gonna put a link in the chat, all right? So we wanna see all y'all come on out and to support these beautiful faculty, staff, students, and alumni. These are our stakeholders, and we must uplift them, all right? Thanks.
Thank you, Maria, and thank you to you and the Capstone group for all the work that you do. It is truly appreciated, all your efforts. And again, we definitely appreciate your support for Howard Alumni United. And I just love the relationship that we have. I'm glad to see these honorees, and I can't wait to attend the event on the 21st. So thank you again, Maria.
Thank you,
And with
Cheryl.
that, we
Thank you,
have
HAU.
come, sorry. We are coming to the close of our event. I'm going to hand it over to Donald for some closing remarks, and I'm going to check the chat after Donald speaks. If there's some questions that we can answer before we let you guys go, we will. But Donald, it's on you.
Sure. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou hast brought us thus far on our way. Thou was by thy might. Let us into the light. Keep us forever in thy path, we pray. It's Black History Month. It's Black History Year for us. But against that backdrop, we look at Howard, we who comprise the Howard Alumni United, look at Howard from a critical lens. The reality that we know and live that shapes our viewpoint and that will shape our existence for the next hundreds of years is the fact that between 1619 and 1867, an entire race of people were deprived of the opportunity to acquire education. In many of the states in the South, there were laws that were called compulsory ignorance laws, where ignorance was compelled, subject to fine and imprisonment. In 1857, the Supreme Court of the United States said that Black people had no rights, and that those Black people meant and included the descendants of people who were then in slavery of an African descent. So that meant those very students that are at Howard and their children and our grandchildren were to be included. And a civil war was fought in 1865. 1619 to 1865, Black people were commodities and education was non-existent. 1865, the 13th Amendment was passed into law. In 1867, just 2 years later, the founding of Howard echoed what Charles Hamilton Houston advocated going into the next century after another 100 years of Jim Crow segregation, when he said, without education, there is no hope for our people. And without hope, our future is lost. And he didn't stutter, he didn't apologize when he said, our people. And that connection is where we are today, as we think about the Howard that we love. And we know that in 2022, not many years after the civil rights legislation of 64, 65, and 68 that opened the doors for so many of us, so many of the people who were even on this call, and their cousins and their friends who were previously excluded from a lot of the institutions, and certainly the ones that they call predominantly white institutions. And didn't have the finances to go to the Black schools, and Howard emerged as a legacy institution based upon its mission, as Damani and Timothy Jenkins spoke about. So we find ourselves in 2022 madly in love with Howard, madly wanting to do more to reach beyond our grasp, and sensing at the heart of the university that something is wrong. Yes, something's wrong. Something's wrong. No, President Frederick, the student protest was not about mis and disinformation. I represented the students in 2018 and 2021. It wasn't about misinformation and disinformation at all. There's a problem. And unfortunately, there was a want of empathy and sensitivity to their victimization and their harm. We come at a time when there is a tremendous backlash against everything that we stand for. We come at a time where there's voter suppression, voter dilution, redistricting. A case involving affirmative action is going to be heard by a very conservative Supreme Court. COVID, climate change, police misconduct, and public outrage throughout the country. And so our community still needs the kind of Howard University that has existed for the last 150 years plus. No, we understand the board's sensitivity to its finances, but we also understand, HAU understands, and I speak as a member of the steering committee of HAU. HAU understands what shared governance means. We understand that you can't have shared governance come into play in 1925 and 26, and then in 2020, dismiss it as if it were an irrelevant consideration. And the manner, the horrific manner in which it happened, the duplicitous manner in which it happened, it doesn't work like that for alumni. So we believe it's wrong, and we believe we have an obligation to challenge it. We believe that Howard's alumni are the promise of the future. Yes, we have not stepped up to the game as a 80,000 alumni constituency, but the promise of a stronger alumni association doesn't come with minimizing it, disenfranchising it, and then in the same breath telling us that you're doing it because of COVID, and at the same time you're having meetings and voting on major financial issues, and then within a year voting to exclude the very persons that you told you would allow them to be elected because of COVID. It's not honest. And beneath that, as an underpinning, and Timothy Jenkins speaks it very well, there shouldn't be dissent and personal angst against students who lead these movements, and certainly against alumni who lead these movements. Tragically, I received a phone call, and I'm going to make a record of it, because I was told that I was asked, what have we done? What has this organization done? What have we done such that the board hates us? Literally, somebody told me that, and it was a credible source. And then they were talking to us, they were being personal, peculiar to me. That the board hates somebody because they dissent is more than disturbing to me. The bottom line here is that we believe that by coming together as a collective, as April said, by reaching to giving our best minds, faculty, students, alumni, and the board, that Howard cannot operate as a divided house. But we can't be patronized either in terms of our values. Alumni can't be disregarded, devalued, and ignored, nor can students, nor can faculty. The university that was so eloquently spoken about earlier is a family as a concept. The historically Black university, the Black university, against the backdrop of centuries of discrimination, can't be converted so easily, and that history can't be minimized or disregarded as we begin to look at transactions that have implications, long-term implications for future students and for the university's future as well. The fact that we even want to know a simple question as to why you excluded us from the board, and if you tell us that there was a consultant report, we can't get this much information about a consultant report, though you excluded us from the democratic participation through our constituencies in decisions that affect the lifeblood of the university. I'm going to close by saying this. A divided Black university is vulnerable. The students are connected to the faculty, students, and alumni are connected to the university, and the board owes a duty to the university. The notion that people can come together and sit in a room and unanimously agree to a particular decision is of concern. We promote transparency and we promote accountability because we think it's the right thing, an honorable thing for Howard University's leadership. We welcome the opportunity, mind you, in doing so, to debate and engage. We asked over 35 former student leaders from 40 years, begged the university to give us an audience, and they did. A 60-minute hard stop conversation. And I know they're out there listening, and I know they're making notes and probably on this call. But ours is not to challenge, to simply challenge because, but to challenge because we have a better mindset about what we can do collectively, faculty, students, alumni, and the board. Not that we are to be isolated by the board because we dissent from how they think. That is not the course of the best interest of Howard University. Not that we should be criticized because we dissent. Not because we file a lawsuit because we dissent, but we file legal actions because we're ignored internally. And the notion of transparency and shared governance is mythology. So we come to a point, Howard, in 2022, where there's a lot on the line. It's a serious time, people. It's a serious time for us. It's a serious time for us, independent of Howard, but Howard brings to that equation some hope, as Charles Houston said, because Howard has its fingerprints all over the progress of Black people throughout the world and of human beings and human struggles throughout the world. So we have to put our lenses on, we have to think, and we have to engage. But what we offer and what we do in HAU is we will do that. And we welcome the opportunity to engage with the administration if they would talk to us, if they would give us the reasons for their actions, if they would tell us, we excluded you and there's a consultant report, but let us talk to you about what the consultant said before we exclude you. Let us give you a summary. Let us give you an opportunity. That's the kind of integrity and shared governance that we asked for, that the university actually advocated in its shared governance, in its self-studies of 2020 and 2009. So we thank you, but we're going to keep on pushing, and we're going to keep on pushing, as Curtis Mayfield said. And as we celebrate Black History Month and all of the history at Howard University, whether it's Frederick Douglass Hall or Allen Locke, or any of the spirit of our ancestors that we invoke in our struggles. We are told in this Black History Month by university leadership that our organization, that we're living in the past. Because we don't understand all the Wall Street dynamics in these contracts and transactions. No. Don't think that's the case. But I assure you this, that if we're going to have a future, you have to know that we're not living in the past, but our past is living in us. Everything that we are is because of our past. And everything that we are to be, and our children and future students of Howard, and the preservation of Howard's legacy, is to be embraced by a selfless past that is responsible for our present. And so we ask you to join HAU, to tell people what we're doing, to read what we're doing, to criticize us, but more importantly, to be honest with us. The work that people are putting in, nobody's getting paid. They're giving their time and their love, excuse me, because they love Howard University. Timothy Jenkins is an octogenarian. Dean Keene is a septuagenarian. These are people whose lives' work have been around the love that we have for Howard. And I assure you that we can do better, and we will do better. And we're going to continue to work hard as we can, to make Howard the Howard that it was promised to be, consistent with his mission and consistent with the conditions and needs and aspirations of Black Americans, first and foremost, and others throughout the world. Thank you.
Well, you brought it home, Donald. Thank you very much for those closing words. With that, we will end the session. All of the questions have been answered in the box. Thank you all for joining us. I think this was just a wonderful session. I really want to thank all the presenters again, the speakers, all of you guys, all of those of you given us our time tonight. We appreciate you. Again, this session is recorded and will be posted on our YouTube page, and also made on demand for those of you who registered. Again, thank you. And until the next time we see you, have a great one in truth and service. Good night.
Good night. Thank you, Cheryl.
Good night.
Good night. Thanks to everyone.
Thank you,
coming.
Cheryl. You're the bomb.
Donald, great job, brother. Great
Yes.
job, everybody.
Thank you, Dean King.
Great job.
Y'all just hit it. Y'all hit it out.
Right,
the
everyone.
Everybody hit it.
Fabulous.
Oh,
Good. Ended on time.
Follow us on social media.
sign the petition, y'all. And read the lawsuit, y'all. Read the lawsuit. I'm telling you, it's a story. It's a story there in that lawsuit. Go to that website, read the lawsuit. Yeah, it's a little long. Don't worry about it. Read the lawsuit. Thank me later.
Thank you.
Angela, do you have the cut button?
Okay, Cheryl, we hear you.
Okay.
Rip on and on and on and on. You know how
Angela, Angela, can you take us back to the prep room?
No, five. We'll convene later. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.